Welcome to another episode of Mike's Money Picks. Today on the podcast, we are wrapping up our Week 8 coverage of the 2025 college football season, and we are breaking down the Saturday night slate, the 7 p.m. Eastern Time DraftKings slate, which has got 8 games on it, and I got to be honest, I don't think they needed to include all 8 of these games. But anyway, we're going to break them all down, tell you what you can expect from each game, as well as who needs to be in or out of your DraftKings and FanDuel lineups here on this night slate. Now, like I mentioned, this is the last video that we are doing for the Saturday or for week 8 of the 2025 season. So if you have not checked out the Saturday main slate episode, or if you're watching this before Friday, well, then go check out the Friday night episode as well. Also, make sure you tune into our live show where we're going to be breaking down the Saturday main slate Friday night around 9:30 Eastern time. And so you can be here with us for that as well. Or if you're just watching this on Saturday, obviously we're going to be breaking down the night slate for you. But also you're going to want to make sure you're subscribed. That way you can be with us for the rest of our college football content all season long. Let's go ahead and dive in. We got 8 games to break down. All right, game number 1 is between my Texas Longhorns heading to Lexington to take on the Kentucky Wildcats. Texas is 12.5-point favorites in this game with a game total of 43, meaning the implied total is about 28-15 in favor of the Longhorns. Now, I got to be honest. Even though this is my team, I wouldn't have been mad if this game was not included in the DraftKings slate. I also think that this is a game with a really wide range of outcomes. Like Texas could show up, and if they were as efficient on offense as they were last week, if the offensive line plays as well, if the running back room plays as well, if Arch plays as well as they did last week, then they're probably going to beat the brakes off of Kentucky, right? But at the same time, it's at Kentucky. Texas has laid some eggs before. This Kentucky team can be pesky. But for DFS purposes, I see very few scenarios where this game takes off. I see very few scenarios where the guys in this game look like good plays on DraftKings and FanDuel. Now, I am probably going to have Arch Manning in my player pool because you're looking at a scenario where Texas is implied to score 4 touchdowns. He does have some rushing upside, and, he's still Arch Manning, so he's got potential to just go off at any given moment. And I think there's going to be one week where he just randomly puts up like a 35-point game, and he's going to be the guy that you're going to need to have in your lineups. And it's going to be at low ownership because he's at such an expensive cost, and he hasn't really done a whole lot, especially against quality opponents so far this season. So I would rate Arch as nothing more than a low probability, low ownership, high upside GPP play. At the running back position, the room got a little thinner for Texas this week because Jarrett Gibson is no longer with the program. He apparently wanted to redshirt, and they kind of just told him to take a hike. So if CJ Baxter does not play, which he is doubtful, it's going to be workhorse Contrevion Wisner season, which is what happened in the Oklahoma game. He's a back with a lot of pass catching upside, and if he is the only back around, he's going to have a lot of upside to put up a lot of DraftKings points. Even though the matchup and the game environment are not great, the opportunity is going to be there for Wisner. And then the wide receiver room, there's just been a whole lot of variables for this team all along. DeAndre Moore did have a really solid game against Oklahoma, 3 for 50 and a touchdown. He's been pretty solid the last 3 games for Texas, but the one with the most consistent role, the most targeted receiver all season long is Ryan Wingo, and we're just kind of waiting for the big game from Wingo. Yeah, he did it against Sam Houston. When is he going to hit one of these deep routes against like SEC competition? It's going to happen eventually. He's $6,800, so you have to pay a lot to find out. But he is the guy that is the most targeted Texas receiver, and he's also getting the most lucrative targets as well. The tight end Jack Andrews does have a little bit of a role, but I don't think that's a great play. Emmett Mosley's $3K. He's worth a punt in my opinion because you just have a feeling that eventually he's going to break out this offense. And if you want to be early on it, you're going to get him at a very cheap price tag. The Kentucky guys, I'm going to be honest, there's going to be nobody from Kentucky in my player pool. I just don't really see the upside here. Whether it's Cutter Boley or Zach Calzada, neither of them are SEC quarterbacks. At running back, I love Seth McGowan, but not against this Texas defense. No running back has really fared well against this Texas defense. So I'm just out. And then receivers, they spread the ball around too much. Then they're not a good passing offense to begin with. So hard pass it there. All right, game number 2 is going to be between Penn State and Iowa. Another game that I would not have been mad if they did not include on this slate. Iowa's 2.5-point favorites. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. With a game total of 40.5 points, meaning the implied total is about 21-19 in favor of Iowa. Oh boy, if Penn State is not favored in this game, are they even going to get the bowl? I don't know, but for DFS purposes, I'm good. I like Penn State. It's going to be Ethan Grunkemeyer at quarterback. He was a 4-star recruit. He might be good. He's only $6,200, but he's playing against Iowa, which means that it's going to be a super slow-paced game. There's not going to be a whole lot of upside. I fail to see a scenario where this game has more than 50 points scored in it, which is not good for Grunkmeyer. It's also not good for the Penn State receivers. The only play I might be willing to play for Penn State is Katron Allen, because he has been, just from an efficiency standpoint, so much better than Nick Singleton this year. He scored a touchdown in every single game. I think that there is a little bit of upside with Allen, as well as a floor with Allen. But I'm really not here for the rest of the Penn State offense. And then the Iowa offense, bro, like, what are we even doing? Penn State's defense still pretty good. Iowa's going to start Mark Gronowski. He has shown the ability to play hero ball and do it all on himself. That's probably the only play you're going to get here. Kamari Moulton's a good running back, but not at that price tag against this defense. All right, next up, we've got another battle in the Big Ten, which does not feel like a battle in the Big Ten, between Maryland and UCLA. Little coastal matchup here. UCLA is 3.5-point favorites with a game total of 52.5 points, meaning the implied total is about 28-24 in favor of the Bruins. Maryland traveling cross country. I don't think it's a great spot for him. Now, Maryland is an offense that has one of the highest pass rates on the slate. They are going to throw it all over the yard. So their quarterback, Malik Washington, is going to have plenty of attempts, but he doesn't really do a whole lot with them. He's yet to hit 300 yards in a game this season, and he also has not a whole lot of rushing upside. So to me, the only way to play him would be like to just play a full-on game stack and just hope that this game absolutely takes off. And I just don't see that as being a super likely scenario. The running back position for Maryland is a committee between Ray and Williams. I have no interest in it. The wide receiver position is where Maryland is a little bit interesting. So because they pass so much, they do have a lot of guys that just accrue a lot of targets, like Jalil Farouk and Dorian Fleming both have 39. I'm sorry, I misread that. No, I didn't misread it. Farouk has 39 targets on the season. Fleming has 36 targets on the season. So they're both getting targeted a plenty heavy amount. Schleet has 35 targets on the season as well. Octavian Smith has 35 targets on the season as well. So you're just seeing 4 guys that all get used quite a bit, which makes it really hard to stack, really hard to pick which one. I think the best one of the group is Farouk, but he really hasn't shown a whole lot in DFS this year. I just think he's due for some regression in terms of his, conversion rate on his targets and his touchdowns. But when you got 4 guys like that, it's really hard to pick one. It makes it a really tough stack. Now on the UCLA side, we're seeing the revitalization of Nico Iamaleava here in the last 2 weeks. Against Penn State, 50 DraftKings points, which is just so weird. He barely had 15 to that point in the season before that anyway. And then we've got 19.5 against Michigan State, where really he just wasn't asked to do a whole lot. He wasn't asked to run the ball as much as he was in the Penn State game. So what are we going to get from Nico here? I don't know. I think there's a wide range of outcomes. He certainly has slate breaking upside. I don't think the defense is anywhere near as good as Penn State's, but are they going to run him like they did? I think that's TBD. So I think he's a guy that if you're playing GPPs, you might want to get as a part of your player pool, just because he does have the upside to break a slate. But he also has the upside to totally let you down. At the running back position, we've been waiting for this all season long for UCLA, but it really did look like it was Jalen Berger workhorse season against Michigan State. It was also a revenge game for him. He scored 3 touchdowns in that game total, so revenge gotten. But is that a one-game aberration, or is that a sign of things to come? I don't know. I don't really want to pay to find out. On the UCLA receiver room, Quasi Gilmore's their wide receiver 1, but I'm not playing him at this price tag. $6,200 is just way too expensive for him. He's only had 1 game all season long where he got to 3x value for that salary. He is their by far most targeted receiver. He's by far their best receiver, but that price tag is just not reasonable. If I play Nico, I'm going to be playing him unstacked and playing him for his rushing upside. Next up, we've got Tennessee taking on Alabama. It is the 3rd Saturday in October. So this is a banger of a game, and it is a banger of a game for DraftKings as well. Now, I think it's weird that this game's not being played at 3:30, though. Maybe I'm a crazy person here, but all my memories of watching this game seem to be played in the 3:30 window. So it's a little weird that this game's at 7:30. Maybe that's just to, fulfill the ESPN SEC contract or whatever you have it. But it's just weird that this is a night game to me. Alabama's 8.5-point favorites with a game total of 58.5 points, meaning the implied total is about 33-25 in favor of the Tide. Now, on the Tennessee side, I do think that this Alabama defense is a little bit suspect. I do think that you can have success on Alabama by running or passing, just depending on how your offense works. They've really struggled with these wide split Josh Heupel, veer and shoot type offenses in the past, which is obviously what Tennessee is still doing. And they've also struggled with mobile quarterbacks in the past. So, like, if you have one of those two things, you can really get Bama. And, this is a Heupel offense. So they're going to have the wide split wide receivers. Joey Aguilar is a gunslinger. He's $8,100, which I think is a little pricey, but he has hit 3x value for that salary 3 times this season, including a season high of 37 DraftKings points against Georgia. There's a chance that he gets there. He's going to make my player pool because I just think there's a chance that, an aggressive guy like Aguilar, who has a little bit of rushing upside, there's a chance that he could get to 300 yards. There's a chance that he could get multiple touchdowns. There's a chance he can run a touchdown in. So he's just got upside in all the right ways for me. And he's a guy that I'm going to be getting my player pool for that reason. Now, granted, it could all go totally off the rails, but if you're playing GBPs, which I do, he's going to be my player pool. The running back position, it is still a little bit of a committee for Tennessee, but the good news is that they do run the ball quite a bit. So all these guys are going to have upside to score. Like, you just look at their last game against Arkansas, Deshaun Bishop, 14 carries, and Star Thomas, 10 carries, and then Peyton Lewis, 8 carries, right? And so now Lewis did get the goal line work, which is worth noting. If you're looking to try to punt a running back and hope somebody falls in the end zone, Peyton Lewis would probably be your guy. But all 3 of these guys are going to see carries. Bishop's probably going to see the most of it. But, there's room for upside here because, like I said, I do think you can run on this Bama defense. Part of the genius of the Heupel offense is that by using such a wide splits with receivers, you're really lessening the numbers in the box and hurting the ability for the safety and the corners to help in the run game. And so that does play into Tennessee's hands as an advantage by how they formationally align themselves. And I do think you could see some success in the run game for Bishop, Thomas, and Lewis. At the wide receiver position, I think Chris Brazil is one of the top wide receiver plays on the entire slate. He's really good, y'all. 42 targets on the season, most of them deep. He's had some huge games, 36 against ETSU, 44 against Georgia, 25 against Mississippi State. He's just a guy that brings a ton of upside, right? And it's because of how much he gets targeted and how much he gets targeted deep. Now, to me, Brazil's going to be the popular one. Braylon Staley was a wide receiver, right? I'm not crazy. I think he was. Like, he was a little white dude that played for the Broncos. Brandon Staley. No, Brandon Staley was the coach of the Chargers. I'm thinking of Brandon Stokely. That's the wide receiver. Okay, so Braylon Staley, not Brandon Stokely, not Brandon Staley. Braylon Staley is a wide receiver for Tennessee. He is actually their most targeted receiver on the season, 41 targets. And he has had some highs, but not as high as Brazil. And the reason why is he's not targeted as deep downfield. He doesn't score as often. But the volume is there, the snaps are there, the matchup is there, and the ownership is going to be less on him. So I do think that he is absolutely a viable play. I am going to have me a little bit of Braylon Staley as well as Brazil. And then you've also got Mike Matthews, 34 targets on the season. He was supposed to be the wide receiver 1 coming into the season. He's had a few moments, but hasn't really done it consistently. I kind of view him as certainly the third option, but definitely a viable pivot in DFS because of the fact that nobody's going to play him, and he still does have a pretty sizable role in the offense. All right, now let's talk on the Alabama side. So last week, I was very critical of playing Ty Simpson against Missouri, and I was kind of right. Like, he was just too expensive for what that game environment was going to be and what his role in that game was going to be. So if you're playing Ty Simpson as a pocket passer at $8,700, you want him to be in a really good game environment, and you want him to be stackable, right? And this is a much better game environment here taking on Tennessee with the tempo that Tennessee plays at and Tennessee's ability to score points and push the game environment than it was last week against Missouri. And oh, by the way, Jim Miller, Alabama's running back, could not play in this game. That should definitely increase the number of pass attempts, increase the pass rate for Alabama. So I do think this is a much better spot for Ty Simpson. I think you can play him in or out of game stacks, but if I play him in my lineups, I'm certainly playing him stacked with one of his wide receivers. At the running back position, we already mentioned it. Jim Miller is questionable. Pretty much Alabama had no run game before Jim Miller got healthy. And I think it's quite likely to assume that it's going to go back to that way. Now, Kevin Riley will go back to being the running back 1. He's not like a total dud, but he's not like, I don't know, he just wasn't that effective when he was the workhorse running back. Do I think that there's a chance that he could be a value play at $3,600? Yeah, but I don't know. When we played him back in the Wisconsin game, when he was 3K and he was the starter, he only got 7 carries, only got 3 targets, 7.8 DraftKings points. Not great, bub. I don't know. There's a chance he could be a really good value play. There's also a chance he could totally bust. At the wide receiver position, Alabama, good news, they're a pretty concentrated offense, which is what we like to have. From a pure perspective, Jeremy Bernard leads the team with 38 on the season. Now, Ryan Williams, or let me talk about Bernard first. Bernard's just the best wide receiver Bama has, in my opinion. He really excels in his role in the offense. Really good fit for the Ryan Grubb, Kalen DeBoer system. $5,900 is a super reasonable price tag. We played him last week at Missouri. He let us down only 5 DraftKings points, but I'm going to buy the dip here. I'm going to still stay in here on Jeremy Bernard for one more week. Ryan Williams kind of got phased out of the offense against Missouri. Only targeted once. Did not play a whole lot of snaps in the second half. Was he hurt? Was he not hurt? I don't know. Was he getting benched? I don't know. He hasn't been good this season, which makes it hard to play in DFS at a price tag of $7,200 if you don't know if the guy is getting benched or if you don't know if the guy is hurt. So I'm out for that reason. Bernard's going to be my guy. I do think that Horton is playable at $4,500. Very consistent role in the offense, especially if Ryan Williams is going to be benched or no longer a part of the system. All right, that is 4 games in. Let's go ahead and take a quick breather, and then we are going to continue on with the rest. Now, before we continue, I do want to mention there are places where you can get more information from me. First off, follow me on Twitter at Mike's Money Picks. It's where I tweet out all updates for the show, as well as if you have any questions or just want to reach out to me with anything, reach out to me on Twitter. More than happy to answer you and get back to you on there. I'm also in the Fantasy Corner Discord. The link is in the description on YouTube as well as on the audio feed. Fantasy Corner Discord is a community of a bunch of people who play DFS for a lot of different sports. College football is one of them. And we're always in there talking strategy, talking plays, helping each other out, helping with injury news and updates, because it's always great to have crowdsourcing on something like that. And it's just a great place to go if you're looking to up your DFS game and just talk with other people about DFS or just sweat out the games together and go on tilt. It's just a blast. Also, if you want to know who makes my actual college DFS lineups, head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Mike's Money Picks. Every single college football DFS slate, post my core plays as well as a full write-up why they're my core plays. So you not only get the plays themselves, but the information and reasoning. It can help you get better at your college football DFS game. Also, shout out to my guy, Dev, in the Fantasy Corner Discord for making this nice little graphic for me. Dev's been doing the thumbnails for me, and he does a great job at it. And he also made this graphic, and I'm super appreciative for that. So shout out to you, Dev. All right, let's continue on now with game number 5. This one is a fun one for DFS. It's not really a fun one for real life football. I don't think this is going to be a very good game, but for DFS, I think this is great. We got Pitt taking Syracuse in the Carrier Dome. Pitt is 10.5-point favorites with a game total of 54.5 points, meaning the implied total is 32-22 in favor of the Pitt Panthers. Now for Pitt, they recently turned to Mason Heinschel, true freshman, as the starting quarterback. In his 2 starts, 34.7 DraftKings points against Boston College, 28.2 DraftKings points against FSU. Yeah, sign me up for some more Mason Heinschel going up against a Syracuse defense that ranks 130th in the nation at 289 passing yards allowed. This is a true freshman quarterback on the rise in a good system for quarterbacks. Like we saw last year, Eli Holstein was really good at the start of the season last year before he got hurt, and he's going up against a really bad defense in Syracuse. Love Heinschel this week. Yes, you're going to have to pay a pretty penny for him, but I do think there's enough value on this slate that you can afford that safely, and I do think there's a stacking partner you can play him with. Now, unorthodoxically, I think the stacking partner is the running back Desmond Reed. Desmond Reed is a guy that if you told me back in August when I was drafting him first, second, and third in best ball drafts, I would have been shocked to find out he was only $6,600 by the time October came around in DFS. But he shouldn't be. The reason why he's that cheap is because of the way the algorithm works. He was injured, didn't play in a lot of games, wasn't effective in a lot of games, and now he's back, and he had 43 DraftKings points against Florida State. He had 8 catches in that game, 155 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's why I think he's a great stacking partner with Heinschel. There's a chance that Heinschel's passing touchdowns just all go to Reed, and then any rushing touchdowns you would be capturing by playing Heinschel and Reed. So I think it's a great little double stack there, or not double stack, but a great little unorthodox stack to play Reed with Heinschel, or I think you just play Reed as a one-off play. This is a guy that should not be $6,600. One of the best running backs in all of college football, one of the best pass-catching running backs in all of college football. Cannot stress enough how good of a play Desmond Reed is at $6,600. One of my favorite running back plays on this slate. At the wide receiver position, here's where it gets interesting for Pitt. So they pretty much only throw to 2 guys. Kenny Johnson, who had the huge game against Boston College and then was almost a total non-factor against FSU, and Raphael Williams, who did against Boston College and then had 6 for 78 against FSU. Now, you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, Mike, why are you only mentioning those two games? Why not look at the whole scope of the season? Those are the only two games where Mason Heinschel was starting quarterback. So it seems to me that if you don't count Desmond Reed as a part of the equation, Heinschel can support one receiver. And that one receiver is either going to be Johnson or Williams. Good luck figuring out which one. Honestly, I don't know which one it's going to be. I've watched enough Pitt to know that Williams might be a slightly better player, but I don't know. Good luck figuring out which one it's going to be. The good news is it's going to be one of them too. So you can actually literally create a very similar lineup and you just swap the two out and see how it goes. Now, Syracuse is one of the teams on the slate with the highest pass rates on the season, but they don't have their starting quarterback. Their backup, Ricky Collins, is now the starter thanks to Steve Angeli's injury. Ricky Collins had been supremely ineffective as a starter until the SMU game. SMU is one of the worst secondaries in all of college football. Ricky Collins still threw 3 interceptions against them. But he had 23.9 DraftKings points because he threw for 279 yards, also had 57 rushing yards and a touchdown. So there's a little bit of upside with Collins. I think he's a very viable game stack play because I think the way that Collins would find a lot of success is if this game goes back and forth, and I think you can play Heinschel and or Reed and or one of the Pitt receivers on the other side. Makes a lot of sense to me in that way. I also don't mind playing Yassine Willis at the running back position. We mentioned time and time again on this show, if you have a workhorse running back in college football, you pay to play him. And Yassine Willis is a workhorse running back. He's $6,300. Got no problem playing him. Even if the matchup is not that great on paper with Pitt, I like it. Pitt's run defense has improved a lot in recent weeks. At the receiver position, good news and bad news with Syracuse. The good news is that they pass the ball so much that there are plenty of pieces of pie to go around to these wide receivers. The bad news is that there just is so many options for this passing attack. It creates a situation where it's really, really tough to figure out which one it's going to be. Now, if you were to handicap it, the target leader on the season is, in fact, Jonte Cook with 47 targets. That's a lot. That's almost 8 a game, y'all. He's consistently been the target leader for this team. He only has 2 touchdowns on the season. I think he could be due for a little bit of regression. I think he's the guy that I would want. Second on the team in targets is going to be Villari. Ross Simmons and Gill are third and fourth. Gill only had one huge game against Colgate and hasn't done anything ever since. So it'll be one of those 4 guys. I think more likely than not, it's Cook. And he's the guy that I would kind of be willing to sell myself on. Like, hey, I'm going to play Jonte Cook as my Syracuse wide receiver. And if it burns me, it burns me. All right, game number 6 is USC heading to South Bend to take on Notre Dame. Great rivalry game here. I think this is going to be a really fun game. Notre Dame's 9.5-point favorites, meaning and the implied total is about 61.5, meaning the implied score is going to be about 5-26 in favor of the Irish. Now, I do want to search something because it did not occur to me until this show started recording to look this up. I want to look up the box score from last year's game for these two because Jaden Mayava did end up starting in that game. So, last year USC had Miller Moss. They benched him over the course of the season and ended up playing Mayava down the stretch. And so Mayava did play. And I want to see how effective Mayava was, especially who he was throwing to. Yeah, that's about what I thought. So Jaden Mayava in that game, 360 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, and also 11 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. So if I'm doing the quick math here, that is 15 plus 2, 17 plus 12, 29 minus 2, 27, 28, 40 DraftKings points for Jaden Mayava against Notre Dame last year. Holy cow. Does that mean he's going to do that again this year? Maybe not, but it means that he certainly a lot last year against Notre Dame. This is a guy that we've seen have huge games over the course of the season. I think he's a solid play at $8,500. I definitely think the way to beat this Notre Dame defense is through the air. I don't think you're going to have a lot of success trying to run on this Notre Dame team. I think that Mayava in the Lincoln Riley offense is going to be able to put up some points. The only variable is the fact that this is supposed to be a weather game. We're supposed to get wind and rain, and I definitely think that could take the sails out of the USC offense. So I do think you're going to want to check the status of the weather before you start and play a lot of these USC guys. At the running back position, I got to be honest, I'm kind of out on it. It's going to be a committee between Brian Jackson and King Miller, which, by the way, USC had Brian Jackson listed on the depth chart as out in the Michigan game. He ended up playing in that game and carrying the ball 5 times for 35 yards and a touchdown. And USC was only in $5,000 for this. That that just shows you how unserious injury reporting in college football is. That should be a massive fine. If an NFL team did this, especially with how much gambling there is on the NFL, there would be like an FBI investigation and there would be like lawsuits. But the fact that it's college football and that not a whole lot of people care, I care, but not a whole lot of people care. Only a $5,000 fine. I don't think that's right. I don't think it's fair. Anyway, it's going to be Brian Jackson and King Miller as the two running backs. They were both really good against USC. They're both really cheap, but it's going to be a committee. It's going to be a high pass rate. I don't think they're going to have a whole lot of success running on Notre Dame. Just going to be honest. Now, at the wide receiver position, with USC, it kind of starts with Mekhi Lemon, and I wouldn't fault you if you only wanted to play Mekhi Lemon. In the game last year against Notre Dame, 9 catches, 133 yards, and no touchdowns. So he's kind of due for one, right? And Mekhi Lemon's a guy who can go off at any time. 3 games this season, over 34 DraftKings points. We know Notre Dame's going to run a lot of man coverage. He's a guy that's going to beat that man coverage consistently. He's one of my guys at the receiver position. And then you got Lane, just a big body red zone. Had 3 touchdowns last year against Notre Dame. Granted, they were his only 3 catches. But I really think you can just build this USC passing attack off of Lemon and Lane. They're both really good plays, in my opinion. Lemon's probably one of the top receiver plays on this slate. Now, let's talk about the Notre Dame side. So for Notre Dame, CJ Carr's at quarterback, and he's playing so well. Like, if you just watch the game, watch how he plays football, he's playing really, really good. The problem with him on DraftKings is I don't think he's worth an $8,300 price tag. Granted, I could not play him and he could burn me because he certainly has 300-yard upside. He certainly has multiple touchdown upside, but he's not really a runner. The game could have weather. He's up there at $8,300. I just think that's a little too much for what this offense asks him to do because let's be honest, the Notre Dame offense revolves around Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. Now, granted, the one counter argument I will make for Carr is that the USC defense has been giving out passing yards like they're candy. They're not a good pass defense. Each of the last 2 serious quarterbacks who have played them have top 300 passing yards. USC's 90th nationally in passing yards allowed per game. That's not great. So I do think that it is a good matchup for CJ Carr. But like I said, there's a lot going against him, including his price tag. Now, for the running backs, Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, they're both great. Jeremiah Love, obviously, he's one of the best running backs in all college football, in my opinion, the best. And he's up there at $9,000. That's not unreasonable. He's got multiple touchdown upside. He gets usage in the passing game. He's a threat to break off a long run at any moment. Surprisingly, he hasn't hit one over 50 yet this year. Arguably, he might be due. I think he's worth a look at $9,000, even though that price is a lot. Jadarian Price, $5,400. Also, big role in the offense. Have no problem getting to him. I think he's a great pivot, like ownership type play off of Jeremiah Love. Got no problem with that. The wide receiver position for Notre Dame, got good news and bad news. Good news is they're only going to throw to 4 guys. The bad news is good luck figuring out which one it's going to be. Will Pauling has kind of been the receiver du jour for Notre Dame. Touchdowns in 3 straight games, 14 DraftKings points in 3 straight games. Will that continue? I don't know, but bro, Eli Raridan's the tight end. He's just a really solid tight end. Hasn't scored a touchdown yet on the season, which is really weird. Malachi Fields is like the deep downfield threat for this team. He could absolutely score a deep touch. But the most consistent passing option for this Notre Dame passing attack is Jordan Faison. He is their slot, gets used in a lot of creative ways. They're going to look to get him the football early and often. He's the most consistently targeted player, most targeted player on the season. He is the one that I would be honing in on if I were to play one for this Notre Dame passing attack. Now, next up, we got Missouri and Auburn. Little battle in the SEC. Missouri is 1.5-point favorites with a game total of 43.5 points, meaning the implied total is about 22-21 in favor of the Tigers. I gotta be honest, y'all. I just don't really see it with this game. I just don't see either of these teams scoring a whole lot. They're good defenses. They're kind of constipated offenses at times. Missouri hadn't really played anybody until the Alabama game. Bo Perbula in that game played okay. I watched most of that game. Wasn't great throwing, but he did a lot with his legs. I think he's just okay. $6,600 going up against this Auburn defense. I do think this Auburn defense is underrated. I think they're actually one of the best defenses in all of college football. I like the price tag on Perbula, but I don't like the game environment. I don't like the matchup. And I'd say the same thing about Ahmad Hardy. He's one of the best running backs in all of college football. I do mean that. But he showed us against Alabama. When he goes up against a good defense that's able to really put numbers in the box to stop the run, it's not going to be all that great for him. $7,700 is a lot to pay for that. And then at the wide receiver position, they really only throw to Coleman, Johnson, and the tight end Norfleet. Norfleet's a big random touchdown scorer. If you're looking for a low price wide receiver to score a touchdown, Coleman is the guy. He's the volume hog. But again, Missouri hadn't played anybody until they played Bama. When they played Bama, Kevin Coleman didn't do a whole lot. It's not really encouraging. Now, Auburn is the exact opposite. Auburn has these two elite receivers in I clicked the wrong button on DraftKings. Hold on. They have these two elite receivers in Coleman and Singleton, but they really struggle to get him the football because Jackson Arnold is a limited quarterback. Pretty much all he can do is run. He's not putting up a whole lot of passing stats. And it's kind of hard to play a quarterback at $7,600 when all they're doing is running. And, oh, by the way, they take a lot of sacks. So what they do run for, they kind of give it right back. I don't know. I can't get to Arnold at 7,600 right now. Their running back room is a committee. Wide receiver, they're struggling to get the football. I'm kind of out on the Auburn offense. The last game of the night is going to be the Holy War between Utah and BYU. A little bit of a bitter rivalry game here. Utah is 3.5-point favorites with a game total of 49.5 points, meaning the implied total is about 26 to 23 in favor of the Utes. I got to be honest, there's really exactly two players I'm interested in playing in this game. It's not Bear Bachmeier. He's been good for me this season. He was really good against Arizona last week, but I just don't really see him having a whole lot of success against this Utah defense. And I'm just not buying that he's an effective passer. This BYU team is not really beating anybody good, and I haven't seen him do it against a good defense. So even though Lowry is really good, I think the ownership is going to be really high, and I think this is easy chalk for me to fade personally. I'm not interested in LJ Martin at his price tag against the Utah defense either. And then at the wide receiver position, look, if I'm out on Bachmeier, I'm out on Kingston and Roberts, even though Roberts is the very clear wide receiver one and Kingston has just been the beneficiary of some big plays. I do think that that's a very flip-flop price tag by DraftKings, but just the situation with them going up against Utah, I'm not interested. The two guys I'm interested in playing are both on the Utah, and one of them is quarterback Devin Dampier. Even though the teams that BYU has been playing have not been good, they haven't really dealt well with mobile quarterbacks. And, we know Dampier was dealing with injuries the Texas Tech game. Thanks, Kyle Whittingham, for letting us know beforehand. Ever since those two games afterwards, he's put up 33 and 37 DraftKings points in Big 12 play. That's not nothing, y'all. And BYU's defense, like I said, they're pretty good, but they haven't really dealt well with mobile quarterbacks. And Dampier's about as mobile as they come. He just ran for 120 yards and 3 touchdowns against Arizona State. I think this is a great spot for Dampier at a very reasonable price tag. As we mentioned time and time again, Rodgers and Parker at the committee for Utah running back, I'm not interested, but they do have a very clear wide receiver one. Their target leader on the season is Ryan Davis. He's consistently a part of the offense week in and week out. Now, I actually think he's benefited by the fact that if this game ends up being a close game or if this game ends up being a shootout, those are when he tends to have his best performances. All right, and that is going to do it for the Week 8 night slate. If this video helped you in any way, please hit the like button. It helps me out a ton when you guys do that. I cannot stress enough. I really do appreciate it. It really does help me out. If you're listening on audio, you can rate and review. It also really helps me out. I really do appreciate it, y'all. And while you're here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That way you can be with us for the rest of the college football season. If you want more from me, follow me on Twitter, join the Fantasy Corner Discord, or check out the articles on the Patreon. But y'all, that is going to put a nice little bow around Week 8 of the college football season. We will be back for Week 9 because Week 9 is going to bring us more midweek football as well as some great Saturday matchups as well. So we will be back. But hopefully we gave you guys all the information you need in order to build some winning lineups here on this night slate. Like I said, I have a few leans already. I have a few, it looks like chalky guys that I like, a few chalky guys that I don't like. So, shaping up to be a nice little slate. Well, we'll see how it goes. But hopefully you guys do well. Best of luck to you guys for this Saturday night slate. Thank you guys for watching and listening to this point, and I will see you guys next time.